From Zimbabwe, Tendai Biti. But let's get a quick check-in on how those inauguration preparations are going. We're joined by our reporter Aldrin Sampear on the ground. Aldrin, a release tonight from government that the telecommunications minister will be representing President Jacob Zuma tomorrow. So we know who's going from South Africa. Who's expected?
Well, yes, preparations are indeed underway here in Zimbabwe ahead of that inauguration. Earlier on, we saw visuals of the National Sports Stadium. That's where the inauguration will be taking place. It's actually the same place where Robert Mugabe took his last oath, where he gave his last speech after being elected president of Zimbabwe back in 2013. And this time around, it will be his former vice president, the vice president that he fired, that will be inaugurated as president of Zimbabwe. And that is the developments that are currently taking place here in Zimbabwe. A whole lot of excitement ahead of that moment that will be taking place. And I just quickly want to touch on the legal wrangling that you guys were chatting about earlier on. Understand that from people that I was speaking to as well, that as per the constitution of the country, it is expected that if it's not the vice president that becomes president, it means then the second vice president comes into that place. And that person who is not in the country at the moment is Mpoko. Mpoko is in Japan, as we understand. He was expected to land tomorrow here in Zimbabwe, but from the reports that we have been receiving is that he's taking a detour and he will be either going to Mozambique or Zambia, because there are expectations, or indeed there are expectations that he could be arrested. And I guess the other question is that could one actually say that as it stands at this moment, does Zimbabwe have a president? Because even though Mpoko might not be in the country and it would be expected that he be the acting president, he hasn't been sworn in as the president of Zimbabwe. Does that then mean that Zimbabwe does not have a president as it stands? Earlier on, we spoke to a source from ZANU-PF about what's expected to happen tomorrow in terms of the procedures that will be taking place. To understand that the Chief Justice will be the person.
All right, so we've lost Aldrin. We'll try and check in with him a little bit later. Zimbabwe going through a